Hey everyone, Cleo here, welcome to my channel, and we are entering the month of December. Now I am actually pre-filming this, so it's still November for me, but I tend to get a lot of content out there in December, so I have to start pre-filming in order to make that. So I'm planning, at this moment, I'm planning to bring out 20 videos in the month of December, which is a lot for me, especially, and so I'll be hoping to get like almost half of them at least filmed in the month of November in order to keep up with my schedule in the month of December. But so first up is my December TBR. Now since I'm pre-filming it in November, I won't actually know whether I need to carry something over into the month of December. So it's possible that my wrap-up will contain something more than just these 4 books. I'm actually planning that most likely I'll have to carry something over because the month of November was way too ambitious for me. But so let's get a move on with this. So the month of December basically follows the month of November in terms of the types of books that I've selected. So 3 out of the 4 books that I've selected are books of my 2019 TBR, so 19 books for 2019. Which, if I finish them all in the month of December, then I will reach my goal of finishing those 19 books. And the 4th book is a book for a read-along, so it's the continuation of the Stormlight Archive read-along, which I started doing in October. So first up is a book by Laszlo Kraznahorkai, and that is War and War. Now, I don't know too much about it. Laszlo Kraznahorkai is a Hungarian author, and so we are also following a tale mostly set in Hungary, but we are following a, I think he's a sort of scholar or even a monk. I'm not entirely sure at this point anymore. I think he's mostly just a scholar, and he discovers a manuscript written by an Hungarian during a wartime period. It doesn't even specify which war, and he gets engrossed with it, and sadly this our main character is actually suicidal. However, he determines that before he feels confident to commit suicide, he needs to get this manuscript eternalized. So he wants to put it all out on the internet for future generations to be able to explore this story, and he sets out to New York to do that. Don't ask me why he needs to go to New York for that, but in any case, as far as I understand, it's going to be like an intermix of this of passages of this manuscript that he's reading, and then his adventures or his encounters in New York. Obviously, I'm expecting this to have trigger warnings for suicide or for depression, but I don't know too much about it further than that. It's said to be filled with very beautiful language, so I'm really hoping to love this one. Next up is a much lighter read. It's probably the one book that I still have left this year that I have no problems about, that I think like, okay, that's going to be easy, and that is The Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson. Now, The Kiss of Deception is the first book in the Remnant Chronicles, I think, yeah. And it is a YA fantasy. Now, I've read some YA fantasy this year. I've not read a whole lot of YA, and the YA fantasy I've read, like, I've flown through it, that's the case, but I only like some of them, sadly. So I'm hoping this one can change the tide for me. So in The Kiss of Deception, we are following our main character, Laya, I don't know how to pronounce it, and she is basically, she's stuck in this sort of like traditional society, and her father is arranging an arranged marriage for her, but she does not agree, and so she runs off, and like pretty soon into her adventures she stumbles upon 2 men who she finds herself attracted to or finds herself drawn to, not realizing that one of them is the betrothed that she stood up, and the other one is an assassin sent to kill her. So you can expect like a love triangle or something like that. I don't know how I feel about that. I sometimes like love triangles, but yeah, it's also a trope that has been done a lot, of course. So we'll see where I land on this, but I expect to be flying through this one and then picking up the rest in 2020. Next up is another fantasy. This is an adult fantasy, and it is The Shadow of What Was Lost by James E. Islington. I actually, I don't know why I added the E because there's no E, the James Islington. So I actually won this book in a giveaway hosted by Yasmina Edina on her channel. I will link her channel down below. It's been a very long time since I won this book, and yeah, Procrastination, I'm finally getting around to it, and I actually don't remember too much about it. I kind of tried to look up the premise now, but it wasn't extremely clear, but basically, to put it in its bare minimum, so in this society which we are following here, there used to be these sort of like godlike beings or creatures who seem to, as far as I understand, have had some sort of magical powers, and they were called the Augurs. However, they lost a certain war and they were all destroyed, I guess, and the people who used to serve them, who were called the Gifted, they are now kind of disgraced and like outcasts in society, and so our main character is one of these Gifted. But he discovers throughout the book that he is actually that he has these magical powers that the Augurs used to have. We are also having another character line in which somebody wakes up covered with blood, not really remembering what happens, and at the background of all this is a typical sort of fantasy setting in which the ancient enemy that has long been thought destroyed is reawakening. So really looking forward to another fantasy series. I will be bringing out a video sometime soon, one of the next days, in which I'm talking about my 2020 goals, and one of my 2020 goals is to read more fantasy, because I've been rereading a lot of fantasy, so my count for fantasy in 2019 was actually still pretty high, but I still feel like there's so much fantasy out there that I haven't gone around to, so 2020 I want to be putting a focus on that. And then next up, and finally for 2020, is the big chunk for 2020. I'm planning to give priority to these 3 books that I just described in December, and then to finish this one at the end of the month, just because I think filming wise I've been having a difficult time the past months to get my filming done because of the 2 previous books in the series. And I'm talking about Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson. So Oathbringer is the last book at the moment. It's the most recent book in the Stormlight Archive series in 2020. Brandon Sanderson will most likely come out with his 4th book, which is at the moment still called The Rhythm of War. So Oathbringer, I won't give you too much about it, of course, because it's the 3rd book in the series, but this is a book that is focused on Dalinar, on the character of Dalinar. I've already read it, so it's a reread for me. I think Oathbringer was my least favorite of the 3, if you have to call it least favorite, because I still gave it like 5 stars, I think, or maybe still like 4.5 or something, I don't know. And that's just because I don't like the character of Dalinar as much as I liked the character of Shallan or the character of Kaladin, which were the focal points of the first 2 books. That being said, however, I do acknowledge that the character development on Dalinar in this book is phenomenal. It's one of the best written character developments I've ever read in a fantasy book. So in this book we get the full background on Dalinar and some of the things we've discovered about him in previous books. So Stormlight Archive is an epic fantasy series that is going to take up 10 books. If you're hesitant to go into it knowing that, we're only 3 books in at this point, do know that Brandon Sanderson brings out his book relatively quickly. I mean, I think it's about 3 years per book for his Stormlight Archive series, and he brings out other stuff in the meantime. So if you're dying for another book by Brandon Sanderson to read in the meantime, there's always something coming out. I'll quickly try and give a short premise for Stormlight Archive. There are different ways to give a premise for this book. I'm going to go with one route, but there are definitely others. I've gone other routes in the past as well. So basically at the beginning of book 1, the king of the main society that we are following is assassinated after he signed a peace treaty with a sort of like foreign species, the Parshendi, and the Parshendi claim that they were the ones responsible for the assassination, and so a war ensues in which they want to in which they want to revenge the death of their king. This is very minimal description of this plot, but the plot is ginormous. So in the Stormlight Archive we follow multiple perspectives. The main characters, at least for the first 3 books, have been Shallan, Dalinar and Kaladin. Kaladin is, for example, a slave trying to regain freedom. Shallan is a girl who has been brought up very sheltered, very isolated in her family estate, and she After the death of her father, she seeks out an education in Carbrance, and then Dalinar is the brother of the king that was assassinated, who is trying to get revenge for his brother's murder while also having to deal with his own failings at that time. He wasn't a very reliable person at the time of his brother's death, and so now he's trying to take to higher ideals, to show better comportments, to show the way for to show like an example to the other High Princes of how things should be done. But so yeah, these are the 4 books that I have planned for the month of December. Most likely, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I will have to add another book to that because I'm pretty sure that I won't be meeting my November goals, sadly. So when I get around to posting my November wrap-up, I will also add that information into the video. If there's a book that I haven't been able to finish in November, that will be moved up to December as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please let me know if you have read any of these books, or if you are interested in reading any of these, or if you want to discourage me from one of these. I will still try to read them because it was my goal, but feel free to let me know. And yeah, see you guys in the next one, which should be coming your way very, very shortly, because 20 videos in 31 days means that it's like almost every day. So yeah, a lot of me this month. Hope you don't mind. See you guys.